Hi guys, it's Ross here, Pipedrive expert and partner here in Australia. Today I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of Pipedrive's automation. Now this is a super powerful tool that can automate a heck of a lot of processes and emails and text messages and all sorts of communication things within your business. So essentially Pipedrive builds a bunch of these out of the box for you, featured templates. You can basically send an email series to new leads. You can, when a deal is marked as won or lost, you could send a notification through Teams or Slack. If a deal is marked as won, you could create a project in Asana, for example. There's so many use cases for this, and it's a tool that's really evolving. It's come a long way in the last sort of 18 months. It's hugely complicated, so development and progression of the development of this is understandably a little bit slow, but it's very thorough, and when it does come out, it's super good. So I do highly recommend it. If you have a really complex sort of automation that you're trying to achieve, we quite often use tools like Zapier, where we'll pull data out and do a lookup on a table or something like that, or in a database, and then basically pull that data back into the deal, the activity, whatever it may be. So there's pretty much not a lot of limits to this, with that and third-party tools involved. So if you do need some help with a really complex scenario, feel free to reach out. Today I just wanted to show you an example of a really common one that I think every sort of Pipedrive user should be using. Is basically when a new lead is provided into your Pipedrive, that you should be sending an email series or an email at least to welcome them and potentially start keeping them warm. So with automation, we have two main things, which is a trigger and an action. So the trigger being that the lead comes in and lands in a certain pipeline. So for example, pretty much all of our Pipedrive customizations or builds, we always have a column called lead in not actioned. The idea behind that is that column or that stage in the pipeline should always be empty, right? If it's not, then the sales team have a job to do and they're not doing it at that point. So a good way to visually cue yourself to follow up, your sales team or whatever it may be, that, there's 10 leads sitting in there and they've been sitting there for a day or two, because you can obviously see that in the inside the deal. You can start to sort of action, changes like that. So essentially we're going to hit the lead in not action. We're going to send an email to the deal contact person. We're going to pick a template off the bat. Now you can obviously go and customize templates. If you go into the mail tab on the left hand side and go to email templates and then manage email templates, you can essentially build your own sort of series of emails. You can dynamically insert custom fields or company names, the first name of the person. Any piece of information that's within a Pipedrive deal can be inserted into an email template. So that way it is dynamically personalized to, hi Ross, or, I hope I can help Media Booth as a company. You can customize all that sort of stuff. So really, really important that you go and create some really good email templates or a series to discover more about your business and your products and services. That way this is working while you sleep. So we're just going to pick the example follow-up at this point in time. We're going to click yes to both of these. Essentially what this is checking is basically when the email is opened, it's like a read receipt, but without asking for the read receipt. So technology allows us to do that a different way, so it's a little bit nicer. Also, we can track if you put a link to a YouTube video or your website or something like that. We can see when that link's clicked at the time and all that sort of stuff. So with email series or a sequence, you often want to have a delay. So we'll send the first email, and then 2 days later we'll send the second email, and 3 days later we'll send, 3 days after that we'll send another email. This is how you do it with delays, right? So we would say, okay, in 3 days send another email. I want to skip weekends. I can set a custom duration as well. And then 3 days after that, I'm going to send another email to that same person, so whoever owns the deal, and that might be another template from the series, and I'm going to obviously track the email opening and the link clicking. And then essentially from there, I can create my piece of automation. Here you'll see how it flows down the track. So you see the trigger and the action. So the trigger is when a deal is created, and the condition is when a deal stage is in lead in not actioned, right? there's a million use cases for this. It could be, when a certain field is, let's say a lead source in a deal is website inquiry, send them these emails, right? So it can be broken apart to do so many things, and based on, custom preferences or, industry or anything like that. So as long as you're obtaining that information, you've got that information in a deal, then you can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. So the action would be send the email using the template, right? And that basically just has all the details in there. Then we're going to wait 3 days, excluding weekends. So it will ignore Saturday, Sundays, and it will count as 3 days only in business days. So the condition is the email has been replied to is false, right? When it hasn't had a response, then the email sequence will continue to flow. If it has had a response, then essentially the automation can stop. Right, so really good tool, so it doesn't look like you just completely automated. The good thing about these emails and the templates, they actually come from your email address. They look like you actually sat there and wrote them if you do them really well, and people will react to them. So spend the time to make it feel personalized. Use the dynamic insertion of fields, hi Ross or company name or anything like that to make it feel like someone's actually sat there and wrote it. You will get a better response rate. So so essentially if no one has replied to the email, then we're going to send the next email. Now we could continue to build this automation out to as many as we wanted, and we can also set it to be triggered by just me as a user or any user in the company, right? The caveat I'll put around the trigger by any user in the company is it will send from my email address whoever sets up the automation. So if you're wanting it to be personalized for each salesperson, I strongly suggest you basically copy this automation and do it in their login. That way it will send from their email address. So only if you know what you're doing, send it triggered by any user, or if you're using a generic email address or something like that, then you can use that. But otherwise, I would recommend that you set it up on each account. That way it's basically knowing that it's going to go from that salesperson, because you might be assigning leads in a round robin or automatically, so it might not be the same deal owner every time. If you've just got a single salesperson, then go for it. But if you've got a team of people, you basically just create this automation in each of their in their user accounts, and away you go. So essentially from here, we would just activate that automation and essentially hit save. Now that automation is ready to rock and roll. There'll be a full history of this, so every time the this automation runs, we'll be able to see the history and where it's got to, if it's had any issues or anything like that. You'll also get alerts if anything goes wrong. So that's a quick overview of Pipedrive automation. Hugely powerful tool. This is just scratching the surface. So if you need any help with automation or customizing, feel free to reach out to us. Hope this was helpful. If you've got any questions, drop a comment below. Happy to help.